Hello, this is John Mangini, Vice President of Marketing with the New Jersey Bankers Association. Welcome to the New Jersey Banker Podcast. Today, our President and CEO, Mike Affuso, sits down with Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, for a discussion on economic growth drivers in New Jersey, challenges attracting and retaining businesses to our state, workforce development, and more. To hear Tim deliver a keynote address at our Economic Leadership Forum on March 6th, visit NJBankers.com.
Thanks, John. And thank you to my guest, Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, Mike. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. So for the listeners that don't exactly know what NJEDA is and what it does, can you give us a little bit of background and what are your major priorities in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, so the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, is part of the state government, part of Governor Murphy's team. I'm part of Governor Murphy's cabinet. We've been around for about 50 years. We, in fact, just celebrated in 2024 our 50th anniversary, and we, do our best to be supportive of the, state's economic development strategy, the governor's economic development strategy. And for us these days, that means innovation and small business and inclusion and entrepreneurship and strong communities and all kinds of different things. And so we are always working to support the state's economic competitiveness, to solve market failures, and to invest prudently on behalf of the taxpayers.
It's great. We've had a chance at New Jersey Bankers to work with you and all your colleagues there, and everybody has been fantastic. You have really fantastic colleagues at the EDA, and to any institution that's listening, I would certainly tell you that you should take a look at partnering with EDA if you haven't done so already. Tim, can you tell us a little bit about the industries that you see as significant drivers for New Jersey economic growth?
Yeah, I think it's there's two versions of the story, and they're both positive. One is industries that we've been strong in for a long time, and we're going to continue to, do our best to stay strong in them. Pharmaceuticals, life sciences, certainly high on that list. Financial professional services, the infrastructure economy, are all real strengths for us. Manufacturing are real strengths for us. And under Governor Murphy's leadership, we've continued to invest in all those things, and we've seen real growth in all those sectors, technology broadly as well. We're an innovation economy. New Jersey kind of wrote the book in the 20th century on how to turn research and development into great big successful companies that employ a lot of people, whether that's Bell Labs or Sarnoff Labs or the pharmaceutical industry or lots of different other examples. And so we're really focused on recapturing that leadership position in innovation and entrepreneurship. And there's lots of industries that sort of are part of that come with it. So I put film and television on that list. We've seen a real boom since 2018 when Governor Murphy took office and brought the film and digital media tax credit back in film and television production. You've got Netflix, building $1 billion campus in Monmouth County. You've got Lionsgate building a major facility in the South Ward of Newark. You got one of the biggest film studios in the East Coast being built in Bayonne. And so it's a really exciting time there. Clean energy, another huge opportunity. Obviously some short-term potential challenges, and given what's going on with federal policy, but clean energy we think represents a huge opportunity for the state that's already been realized, but certainly more growth to be had there. Then there's things like cannabis and sports betting that also I think are real opportunities as well.
So those are opportunities for big players, right? You talked about, Lionsgate, Netflix. What about EDA support for small business and startups in New Jersey? Because, clearly small business is the backbone of a lot of small towns.
Yeah, absolutely. One just friendly amendment to how you phrased it, Netflix is going to be really, really good for the small business community in Monmouth County because they're going to buy a lot of stuff. They're going to need a lot of supplies. They're going to need a lot of lumber. They're going to need a lot of, set design and costume design and hair and makeup and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's going to be a spillover effect certainly for the small business community. Yeah, but I think under Governor Murphy's leadership, the EDA has really doubled down, if not tripled or quadrupled down on our support for small business. We support today about 16 times more businesses in New Jersey, and that's overwhelmingly small businesses, than we did before Governor Murphy took office. When I say support, I mean with money. And Governor Murphy has allocated more than $250 million of cash support for our Main Street programs, plus another $1 billion or so of COVID relief money. So we've overseen a tremendous amount of investment in our small business community. And, small business, being a small business and growing a small business is hard when the sun's shining and the wind's at your back. And so the last couple of years have not been easy times between COVID and recovery and inflation and supply chain and whatever else. But we're really proud of the fact there's never been more small businesses doing business in New Jersey than there are today. I think if you ask social media, which you should not do, but if you ask social media, you see all kinds of made up facts about small business declines, and that's categorically untrue. Certainly, lots of small businesses had really tough times during the pandemic, but there are more small businesses doing business in New Jersey today than there's ever been. That's a good thing from an employment perspective. That's a good thing from a community vitality perspective and downtowns and main streets. That's part of what makes Jersey, Jersey. We've got great towns and great downtowns and great pizza places and bagel shops and all the great things that are our calling cards. Those are all small businesses.
Absolutely. And you should be proud of what you did with the work during COVID. I know our banks worked hand in glove with you. Working with small businesses, on our side of the table, the getting the PPP money out the door, it was a big lift, and I know everybody, shouldered that burden. So, again, you and your colleagues did a really good job there. That certainly is commendable. You talk about these economic growth benefits, and you talk about the $250 million pushed down to small businesses. How do you ensure that this economic growth benefits all communities across the state, particularly underserved communities?
Yeah, it's a huge focus for us. This is something Governor Murphy wakes up and thinks about every day, is how are we doing better, not just to grow the pie, but to make sure, there's a fair slice for everybody, particularly historically underrepresented communities, whether that's, communities of color, women entrepreneurs, immigrant communities, veteran community, the LGBTQ community, LGBTQIA plus community, where, however you want to think about it. Making sure that there's better and more equitable access, not just to our programs, but to the economy and economic opportunity overall. And so, we do a tremendous amount of outreach. Part of this is, is just making sure that our programs are accessible more broadly and people know about them. We've got, I'm really proud of the programs we have, but if folks don't know how to use them and they don't know about them, it's, kind of a bell that doesn't ring. And so, we've got a great team, in this case led by, Ty Cooper and Christina Fuentes, who support our small business efforts, and they're road warriors. They're doing old fashioned shoe leather. They're at, if there's a pancake breakfast being had somewhere in any of our 21 counties, odds are we've got folks, there handing out literature, pounding the pavement, making sure folks know about our programs. And that's really important, but it's also about making things available, for example, in different languages. So we just for the first time, we've always, well, not for the first time, but, we make our, all of our, application materials available in lots of different languages. We just launched a new program that you could apply for in Spanish, not just receive the application in Spanish, but you can actually now apply in Spanish. And so just doing a lot of little things, candidly, that add up to a lot, to make sure we're being more inclusive and making sure we're getting the word out far and wide that these programs are available and they're open for everybody.
I'll tell you, I'm really happy that you brought up Ty and Christina by name. We as taxpayers, as residents and citizens in New Jersey, we are very lucky to have dedicated folks in government like Ty and Christina. Christina is all over this. We work hand in glove with her, and there's always this talk about who is actually working in government. Well, I could attest to anybody that listens to this of the diligence that these folks have with getting the job done. I think it's amazing that you actually mentioned them by name. So shout out to you and shout out to them. That's fantastic.
Well, that's very kind. I'm blessed with a great group of colleagues, and some of them are folks who have joined, since I've been around, and some of them have been at the EDA for a long time. And it's a great group of folks who are, as you said, hardworking, creative, thoughtful, do things the right way, which is not to say we don't ever make mistakes. We do, but, looking to do things the right way and do things for the right reasons. And, I'm enormously lucky to have a great group of colleagues.
Absolutely. So you alluded to, don't pay attention to social media. Well, let's focus on what challenges there are that, New Jersey faces in attracting and retaining businesses.
Yeah, I'd say, the things that, particularly when we're overseas and, the governor has led, I forget if it's 7 or 8 now, overseas trade missions, the most recent one to the UK in November. The two things that are most on people's minds when they're making decisions about where to locate are talent and location. talent and infrastructure. Location can also mean infrastructure. Talent meaning, can I find the people I need to grow my business with the skills that I need? And those skills can range from, computer science to engineers to, construction work to lots of different disciplines. And then location and infrastructure. Can I get my people to and from the office or the factory? Can I get my stuff, my goods and services out into the world and back and forth in one piece at a reasonable cost? And on those two fronts, Jersey scores really well. We've got great talent, a workforce that's second to none. Our infrastructure is not perfect, but I think if you put it up against lots of other states in America, we do quite well. Certainly from a location perspective, we're smack dab in the middle of 20% of the U.S. GDP. And so on those fronts, we score pretty well. We know we're not a low cost place to do business. That's a real factor. I think, you've seen Governor Murphy put a tremendous number of incentives, programs together, lots of them, EDA is responsible for, to make the math work and be a tiebreaker. If someone's choosing between New Jersey and someplace else, we want to, help people break ties in our favor, and create jobs and make investments here. So, there's certainly, there's challenges. We have, the cost of doing business is challenging. We know we're not a low cost state, but, we know we're a high value state. And so that's the trade-off.
So you talk about the workforce, and our skilled workforce. And I agree when you look at our education, our schools, particularly our grade schools, are really great.
Yep.
But what are we doing to address workforce development and the skills gap in the state? Because some of our schools, even though, New Jersey sits at the top, our schools that are not so great really struggle. And that's tough for our students, and it's tough for the workforce.
Yeah, and I'd say, first of all, the fact that we've got, the number one public school system in America is an enormously valuable calling card when we're trying to attract businesses. Because if you think about, if you're the CEO of a company and you're thinking about how much do I have to pay my employees, if they've got to put their kids in private school, if they have to put their kids in private school, as a practical matter, it's more expensive than if they can access the great public schools we have here in Jersey. So that's a huge calling card for us. But workforce development is a huge need. This is not a New Jersey problem, although New Jersey certainly shares in it. Our colleagues at the Department of Labor, and throughout the higher education network. So, Rob Asaro-Angelo is not just a good friend, but a great partner in things like apprenticeship and, career pathways, because our New Jersey's economy, because it's an innovation economy, is a talent economy. And there's a war for talent out there. And so we can attract talent, but we also want to retain and grow our talent as much as we can. So, a kid graduating from high school in, any of our communities in Jersey, we want to make sure is either well prepared at that moment to enter the workforce, or after college, or can get some upgraded skills. Because there's a lot of industries that, lifelong learning is a really important part of staying competitive. And so, the Murphy administration has made tremendous investments in things like apprenticeship programs, and in our workforce pipeline broadly. So you also noted that you want to use the EDA as the tipping point to get folks here. Tell us a little bit about the financial incentives available for businesses either considering relocating here or expanding. Yeah. So the biggest program for business attraction and expansion is a program called Emerge. It's a tax credit program that basically says if you create jobs and spend capital, and do so in a way that provides a net benefit to the state, even after those tax credits, we'll help you with an incentive. It's paid out over multiple years, and it's pay for performance. So if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you don't get any money. So if you come in and throw yourself a parade and say we're going to make we're going to create 1,000 jobs and spend $1 billion on a new factory, we all might be excited, myself included. I'll probably be at the parade. But if you don't actually do that, you don't get any money. We've had some examples of that that were in the newspaper recently. I'll allow the companies to remain nameless, but you don't create the jobs, you don't get the money. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind as well, because these are tax credits that are paid out over multiple years. But it's a pretty powerful tool. The legislature authorized a little more than $14 billion of tax credits through the Economic Recovery Act that the governor signed in early 2021. A lot of that is the film, or some of that is also the film and digital media credit, for example, and our Aspire program and various other programs. But we have real resources to invest when in the right opportunities.
So tell us, we're here to talk to bankers primarily. So tell us how our member banks can become more involved with the EDA.
Well, the good news is, lots of your members already are through our Premier Lender program, and we're deeply appreciative. We've had some of those banks have been with us for 10, 15, 20 years, and some have just joined in the last couple of years, and we're really proud. I think we're up in the mid 30s now of partners in our Premier Lender program. One of the balances we try to strike is we don't want to compete with banks, right? We're first of all, we don't have the expertise, we don't have the resources, and we don't have the expertise, broadly speaking, without any disrespect to my colleagues, but we're not professional bankers. And we don't want, why would we want to compete with New Jersey banks, or any other banks? Where we can, where we always do look to partner and collaborate is when there's sort of new, opportunities that may be a little less familiar to the marketplace. So film tax credit financing, for example, is a good example that you and I have talked about this privately. There are banks in the world that make, loans against film tax credits. New Jersey doesn't have a lot of experience in it because our film industry until 3 or 4 years ago wasn't that big, but that's a new opportunity. Clean energy financing is another opportunity that is, an emerging and growing field that, everyone's looking at the risks there and the risk appetite that we all have, a little bit differently. The private sector will be different than the public sector, but those are places where we certainly would look to expand collaborations. We just stood up something called the New Jersey Green Bank. While we are called a bank, that is not intended to compete with the banks, but intended to partner, and maybe do some of the risk, spread the risk around and either move out the risk curve in terms of time, or we'll take some of the risk that's, on the execution side, and split that risk, fairly between the parties. So we're always looking to collaborate and partner.
So you mentioned the word green a couple of times, and we're recording here just after the change of administrations. Are there any changes that you're taking a look at that we think potentially will change with the new administration coming in, the new federal administration coming in, where they're moving in what seem to be very different directions than the previous administration?
Yeah, so here we are in day 3 or 4 of the new administration. I'm not sure when this will run. And you've certainly already seen some significant rhetoric and some significant executive action that's, again, quite different than the Biden-Harris administration. People are entitled to their opinion, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's certainly different. And, we're obviously we're paying very, very close attention to that. We're going to do our best to stay ahead of it and make sure we're being nimble and responding to the facts as they evolve. But I think the good news, for example, on clean energy, yes, the federal government plays an enormously important role, and the Biden-Harris administration was enormously supportive of the clean energy transition, and we may not have that same level of support for the next couple of years. The private sector wants to do this. The private sector wants to be energy efficient. The private sector wants to see, and the country needs, whether it's for AI or other things, we need more energy, broadly speaking. And so whether it's offshore wind or solar or hydrogen, or any of the other sort of forms of renewables, battery storage, the market wants these things. And so I think the energy transition can be accelerated or slowed down by federal policy, but I think there's broad market dynamics that are on the side of energy, of clean energy long term. So we'll continue to find, look for opportunities to pick our spots and be smart. And we're also going to be, continue to stand for Jersey values. New Jersey's a state where the environment matters. So emissions matter to us. We all live right on top of each other. We're the densest state in America. Getting the environment right, getting clean water, clean air, right is important to us. And so I think you're going to see Governor Murphy continue to stand tall on clean energy and the environment broadly, and because for lots of reasons. So those are good. That's good for energy. It's good for the environment. It's good for our economy too. We have the opportunity to create a lot of jobs, but we're going to have to, respond to greet the facts as we find them, as it relates to federal transition.
Certainly. So let's take a look backwards. We took a look forward. Tell me about a project or achievement during your tenure that stands out to you as transformative for the state. It's something you're really proud to be affiliated with.
There's a lot of things that match that description. I think Governor Murphy, one of his, it's a little early to start thinking about what his legacy is going to be, but not too early. Certainly economic growth, broadly speaking, we'll get very close to hopefully 300,000 new jobs during his time in office. The innovation hubs the governor talked about in the State of the State speech just a couple of weeks ago are really important, whether that's the Helix in New Brunswick or the FinTech Accelerator that we're working on with Prudential and Stevens up in Hoboken, or the AI hub that the governor's talked about with Princeton, or Hacks in Newark. Those are real innovation engines that are going to pay dividends for 10, 15, 20 years. We're really excited about those. And things like Netflix and the film industry broadly are things that I think are going to be really enduring contributions to the state's economy. And, our team is really thrilled to have played a role in helping bring those things forward. And those are all things we'll continue. And we've been at it for 7 years. I would hesitate to say we're just getting warmed up, but there's a lot ahead of us still too. So we're going to make the most of 2025.
Well, that's great, and you're very gracious to credit the administration and the governor. But I have to ask you, what are you going to look back and say, you know what, I did a good job here? What's going to make you smile and feel fulfilled? You have anything like that?
My parents raised me not to give myself those kinds of pats on the back, but I think I'm really proud of the team we have at the EDA and the work that the governor's empowered us to do, and the legislature. But it's not just the governor.
Sure.
Certainly, the legislature has given us a tremendous amount of responsibility and authority and money. And so, I will certainly, whenever this era ends, this moment ends for me, and I don't know when that'll be. The colleagues I've had a chance to work on, the people, getting to know, the business community here in the state, the leaders of our big companies and our small companies and our small business community. Jersey's got a lot going for it, and it's because of the people.
Absolutely.
And getting to work with some of them and lead some of them within the EDA has been great.
That's fantastic. It's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. I want to thank my guest, Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. You can see Tim deliver a keynote presentation at our Economic Leadership Forum on March 6th at the Embassy Suites in Berkeley Heights. For more information, visit NJBankers.com. For the New Jersey Banker Podcast, I'm Mike Affuso.